My wife told me to stop caring for my dying father or she'd leave me. When I refused, she walked out and even gave up custody of our kids. I thought I'd lost everything, but after my father's funeral, I learned the truth about what he left behind and why. Frankie, you ever feel like you're being pulled in half? Like no matter which way you lean, something important is going to break? That was me for almost a year straight. I'm 38, been married 10 years, 2 kids. Emma's 8, Daniel just turned 5. You'd think I'd have life figured out by now, right? Stable job, family, a routine. But sometimes life doesn't collapse all at once. It erodes you a little piece at a time until you look around and don't recognize the wreckage you're standing in. It all started with my dad's kidneys. He's always been this larger-than-life figure, stubborn, loud, ran a successful merchandising company for 30 years. I'm his only kid, only son, but we were never close. He had expectations I didn't want to meet, wanted me to take over the family business, wear a tie to Sunday dinners, learn the handshake deals, the supplier lingo, the old school charm. But I wanted something else. I was obsessed with code, circuits, and building things from scratch that didn't need warehouses or shipping trucks. When I told him I wasn't taking over the business, he damn near disowned me, said I was walking away from my legacy, told me flat out, "You'll get nothing from me when I'm gone." Fine, I told him. I didn't need his money. I had a plan, a career, a family of my own. I thought we were done with each other, to be honest. Then Mom died, 6 years ago. That changed things. Suddenly, I wasn't just some disappointment. He was alone. And for whatever reason, that's when I started showing up again. Nothing big at first, just stopping by, helping him with errands, fixing tech issues he refused to admit he didn't understand. Over time, we thawed, bit by bit. Not everything was forgiven, but we found a rhythm, especially once he got sick. Kidney failure. Years of high blood pressure and poor management caught up to him. By the time he started dialysis, he was down to skin and bones. Needed someone to drive him, sit with him, and help him walk back to the car. I sat my boss down, 12 years at the same company, and explained the situation. He was understanding, even offered to flex my hours around appointments. So I blocked off Wednesdays and Saturdays. Every week, twice a week, no matter what, I made it work. But Monica, she didn't take it well. My wife, she used to be this vibrant, energetic woman, funny, driven, always 2 steps ahead of me. We met at a tech conference, actually. She was doing UX design for an upstart. I was building out back-end systems. We clicked instantly. She used to say we were 2 halves of the same brain, but I think the cracks started showing the minute I told her I'd be dedicating this time to my dad. "You're gonna rearrange your whole week around him now?" she asked that first day, arms crossed, voice just a little too calm. "He needs someone," I said. "He can't go alone." "And what about us?" she snapped back. "What about me?" At first, I tried to balance everything. I'd rush out of the house, drop Emma off at school, hit work for half a day, pick Dad up, sit through hours of dialysis, then come home and help with dinner, homework, and dishes. Monica said she was managing, but the resentment simmered just beneath the surface. Little comments at first. "Oh, the kids missed you again. Guess we'll have to reschedule date night again." You know, some of us don't have a flexible boss handing out favors. I ignored them, thought she'd adjust, thought love meant understanding. But the tension never eased. It got worse. The thing is, Frankie, this wasn't just about dialysis. This was years in the making. Monica never really forgave my father for the way he treated me, and she especially didn't forgive me for forgiving him. To her, I was throwing away years of hard-earned boundaries to play the good son now that there was an inheritance in the picture. Except I wasn't thinking about the money. I genuinely wasn't. I just couldn't stand seeing him so weak. He'd stare out the window from the passenger seat and whisper stuff like, "Don't get old, son." And I never thought it'd end like this. That kind of vulnerability, it cracked something open in me. But Monica saw every ride to the clinic as a betrayal. "You're doing this for the will," she spat one night. "Don't pretend this is selfless." "Monica, he's dying," I said, stunned. "And we're living," she shot back. "And you're not even here for that." That's when I realized she didn't see this as loyalty. She saw it as abandonment. There was one day Emma had a dance recital. I told Monica weeks in advance that I couldn't make it because of Dad's dialysis. It was a Wednesday afternoon, a rare appointment they couldn't move. She nodded, pretending to understand. The day of the recital, she sent me a video. Emma on stage, twirling, all pink and glitter. Under the video was one sentence. "She kept looking for you." I watched that video in the dialysis center bathroom, trying not to cry. Still, I kept going. I couldn't stop. Not now. Not when he was barely hanging on. Then Monica started getting passive-aggressive in new ways. She'd accidentally schedule parent-teacher conferences during my dialysis trips. She'd sign me up for weekend brunches I couldn't attend. She started telling the kids, "Daddy's busy with Grandpa again," with this sharp little smile. And the worst part? I still tried to fix things. I cut hours at work, started doing late-night shifts to catch up. I offered to take Monica on a weekend getaway, just the two of us, but she declined, said it was too little, too late. I didn't even recognize my own house anymore. The walls felt thinner. Every noise felt like criticism. I'd walk in the door and feel like I was being watched, judged. Even the kids started noticing the tension. And then came the ultimatum. It was a Thursday night. We just finished dinner. The kids were upstairs watching TV. Monica poured herself a glass of wine and sat across from me at the table. She didn't even make eye contact at first. Then she said it. "I want you to stop." "Stop what?" "Stop going to dialysis. Let someone else take him. He's going to die anyway. You're sacrificing everything for a man who never loved you the way he should have." I couldn't speak. She leaned in. "You're choosing him over your family." I stared at her for a long time. "Monica, this is my family." "No, we are your family, me, Emma, Daniel, not him." I stood up. My chair screeched against the hardwood floor. "You want me to abandon my father while he's dying?" She crossed her arms. "If that's what it takes to save this marriage." That night I slept in the guest room. 3 weeks later, she filed for divorce. You know what shocked me most, Frankie? It wasn't the papers. It wasn't even that she asked for the house. It was that she gave up custody. Voluntarily, she told the mediator, "They're better off with him. I have a life to rebuild." That's when it all clicked. The manipulation, the resentment, the coldness. It wasn't about the kids. It wasn't even about me. It was about control. She couldn't control the part of me that still needed to show up for my father, and that made her furious. When I signed those papers without protest, she lost it. "You're not even going to fight for me," she screamed. "You don't care." I just looked at her. "I did fight," I said. "You just never saw it." When she left, I felt relief. Not joy or victory, just relief. Like I'd been holding my breath for months and finally exhaled. And maybe that makes me a bastard. Maybe I should have done more. Maybe I did choose my father over my wife. But Frankie, if you could have seen my dad's face that last month, how he smiled when Daniel brought him a drawing, or when Emma read him a story, you'd know why I did it. Sometimes you only get one chance to show up for someone. I wasn't going to waste mine. After Monica left, the house was too quiet. No more slammed doors, no snide comments, just soft footsteps from upstairs and the hum of the fridge at night. It should have felt lonely, and it did at first. I didn't realize how tense I'd been. Every day walking on eggshells, trying to avoid triggering another blow-up. It's like my body forgot what it was like to breathe without bracing for impact. She took her suitcases and left a single note on the kitchen counter. "I hope someday you realize what you gave up." But Frankie, I hadn't given anything up. I was finally reclaiming something. Peace. The kids stayed with me, just like she asked for in the paperwork. No fight, no shared custody. She didn't even pack their favorite stuffed animals. Just kissed them on the forehead and told them, "Mommy needs time." Daniel didn't understand. He kept asking if Mommy was coming back. Emma, God, she was sharper than I gave her credit for. She just nodded once when I told her things would be different now and said, "I kinda knew." That gutted me, but we adjusted. Mornings became manageable. We had cereal together in our pajamas. Emma helped Daniel pick out clothes. I'd drive them to school, then head straight to Dad's for breakfast before dialysis. And despite everything falling apart around me, something else started coming together. Dad loved having the kids around. He'd light up when Emma barreled into the living room, already talking about her science project. Daniel would climb onto his lap like he wasn't hooked up to tubes and machines, just Grandpa with the warm hands and quiet smile. The three of us, Dad, the kids, and I, we started forming this strange, fragile little world, a rhythm. That's when I made the decision. I gave up the apartment, moved into Dad's house. It wasn't about money, it was about presence. I wanted the kids to be around him, to know him, while they still could. And selfishly, I wanted to soak up every minute left. The house felt different with us there. Lived in again. Emma hung her drawings on the fridge. Daniel turned the guest room into a rocket ship with glow-in-the-dark stars. We got a full-time caregiver to help during the weekdays, and in the evenings, it was just us. Dad smiled more, laughed more, even ate a little more. He'd sit on the porch and say things like, "You did good, son." Simple words, but they landed heavily, like they were stitched with all the approval I never got growing up. He never apologized for the past, never said, "I was wrong for threatening to cut you out," but he didn't need to, because actions speak louder, and his eyes said it all. Then one morning, it just happened. I went to wake him. The house was quiet, no rustling sheets, no early grumble for coffee. He was lying in bed as still as stone, peaceful, eyes closed, one hand on his chest like he'd fallen asleep holding something. It was the drawing Daniel made for him, a stick figure of Grandpa holding hands with two smaller ones labeled me and Emma. Frankie, I've seen death. I've lost people. But this broke something open in me. He went quietly, at home, around the people he once pushed away. I couldn't stop crying, not just for losing him, but for the strange, beautiful, tragic way we finally found each other right before the end. The funeral was small, just a few family friends. The kids each placed a flower in the casket. Daniel asked if Grandpa would see it from the sky. I said yes, and for once, I believed it. But what I didn't expect came 2 weeks later. A letter from Dad's lawyer. I assumed it was a final wrap-up, maybe instructions for the house or access to safety deposit keys. But when I sat in that cold leather chair across from the attorney and opened the envelope, my hands started shaking. Dad left everything to me. The house, the business, the accounts, every last bit of it. He never changed the will, not even after all those years of threatening to cut me off. The lawyer slid over a handwritten note, one my father must have written months ago. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone. You didn't owe me anything, son, but you gave me everything I didn't deserve. I was proud of you. I always was. I just didn't know how to say it. The business is yours if you want it, but whatever you do, don't stop being who you are. That's what made you better than me." I just sat there, reading that damn note over and over. This man who once called me a disgrace, who told me I was squandering my birthright, he never took me out of the will. He saw me, and in that moment, I knew I had to make a choice. I quit my tech job the next week, told my team I was stepping down. They tried to talk me out of it, offered part-time, consulting, remote, but my heart wasn't in that world anymore. I stood in the old office that my father built with his bare hands. His photo is still hanging on the back wall. His smell is still faint in the wood, and I made a promise. I'll take care of this, of them. I'll do it right. The kids and I started settling into a new routine. Mornings were for school drop-offs, afternoons for business meetings, evenings for dinner at the table my dad made 30 years ago. I hired smart people to help run the company while I learned the ropes, because I was learning, not just about merchandise or numbers, about leadership, legacy. But peace doesn't last forever, Frankie. Not when vultures catch the scent of inheritance. It started with a text from Monica. "Hope you're doing okay. Let's talk soon. The kids miss their mother." I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I didn't expect it, but because I knew what it meant. 2 days later, she showed up, with her mother, and a tray of muffins. The kids were thrilled, of course. Emma ran into her arms. Daniel hung back a little. He remembered more than he let on. But I let them have their moment. Monica asked if we could speak in private. We stepped onto the porch, and she put on her best sympathy face. "I was so sorry to hear about your dad," she said. "I know how much he meant to you." I nodded, waiting. She glanced at the house. "Looks like the kids are adjusting well, and I'm glad you're stable. That's important, especially now, for them to have both parents. I was thinking maybe we could revisit custody." There it was. I looked her dead in the eye. "You didn't want custody." "Well, circumstances have changed. I miss them, and they should have their mother in their life." "And your lawyer? Is he missing them too?" That's when the mask cracked. "You really think I want them just for money? she hissed. I didn't say anything. She stood up, trembling. You've changed. No, I said. I've just stopped apologizing. That night I called my lawyer. Monica had no legal claim to the business or the inheritance. Our divorce agreement was airtight, but that didn't mean she couldn't make noise. So we drew up boundaries. Custody visitation, but only supervised for now. A trust fund for the kids, untouchable by anyone but them. And a warning in writing. Any attempt to manipulate them or challenge custody would be met in court. Swiftly, I wasn't angry. I was just done. Done being guilt-tripped. Done being questioned for doing the right thing. I'd chosen my father. Then I chose my kids. Now I was choosing myself. And Frankie, that might have been the hardest one of all. You know, Frankie, funny thing, last time I was in your cab, I didn't finish the story. Didn't think I'd catch your ride again, but here we are. So, if any of this sounds familiar, sorry in advance. But have you ever sat in a quiet house and felt like the walls were listening? That's what it felt like, the night after the funeral. The kids were asleep upstairs. The caregiver had gone home. And I was just sitting alone in the chair my father used to fall asleep in during Mets games, staring at the ceiling like it had answers. Grief isn't loud. Not really. It shows up in the quiet moments. Like when you reach for your phone to call someone and then remember they're not there. Or when you pour 2 cups of coffee before you realize one will go cold. That night I poured 2. Frankie, I never expected to mourn him this much. I spent years hating that man. Years resenting his pride, his silence, his iron grip on expectations. But when we finally found each other again, damn, I didn't know how deep the love ran until it was too late to say it out loud. He didn't die with a final speech or some dramatic reconciliation. No big "I'm sorry," no flash of regret. He just faded out of the picture, quietly. But he left a mark. The kids and I grieved in our own way. Emma drew pictures of Grandpa sitting on clouds. Daniel started carrying around that old photo of the 3 of them at the zoo, like a security blanket. And me? I threw myself into the business. At first I was overwhelmed. The warehouse inventory system was ancient. The vendor contracts were handwritten. Half the files were in a locked cabinet with no key. I was a tech guy, used to clean code and automated processes. This business? It was grease, grit, and gut instinct. But I felt him in every room. In the busted desk drawer that only opened if you kicked it. In the battered file box labeled "Trust no one except Lou." In the old coffee maker that made sludge but never broke down. I didn't want to love it, but I did. And then came the letter. It showed up at the office one rainy Monday, hand-delivered by Dad's lawyer. I thought it was some leftover estate paperwork, but inside was a note, dated months before his death. Another one, but unmistakably his handwriting. Son, I never learned how to say sorry, but I saw you. I watched you raise those kids. Stand by your word, show up even when it hurts. You were always stronger than me. I never cut you out of the will. I just said I would scare you. The truth is, I admired your fire. The business is yours. Do what you want with it. Just don't forget where you come from. I loved you, even when I didn't show it. Dad. I read the letter in the back of the loading dock. Rain pouring outside. Pallets were stacked around me. I sat on an overturned bucket and cried until my chest ached. He had seen me. He just didn't know how to say it. The inheritance was larger than I ever imagined. He left the house, the business, multiple investment accounts, and enough liquid assets to ensure the kids' futures were secure for life. But none of that touched me like his letters did. It was proof that I hadn't lost him completely, that the old man who once looked me in the eye and said, "You'll never make it out there," had spent his final years watching me make it and loving me for it. So I made a decision. I was going to run the business, not just as a son fulfilling some final wish, but as a father, a builder, a man who'd fought for his peace and earned the right to protect it. The first change I made was to upgrade the tech, brought in some systems automation, modern inventory tracking. The older guys grumbled, but after a few weeks they saw the vision. And the ones who didn't? I helped them retire with dignity. Next, I turned the upstairs office into a small kids' space. Emma and Daniel would come after school, do their homework while I worked. Emma even helped design the logo for a new product line. She said Grandpa would have wanted something shiny. I didn't argue. The place felt alive again. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving. But just when I thought the past was behind us, Monica came back, not with a suitcase this time. No muffins, Just a tight dress, a fake smile, and her mother tagging along like a bad campaign manager. They walked into the office unannounced. My assistant didn't even know what to say. "Nice place," Monica said, looking around like she was appraising furniture. "I always said you had potential." I didn't even stand up from my desk. "What do you want?" Her mother stepped forward. "We just think the children should have more balance. And now that you're in a position of financial strength, Monica is ready to revisit custody." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was so transparent it hurt. "You think you can come in here after abandoning them and negotiate with me over money disguised as custody?" "I am their mother," she snapped. "You can't erase that." "No," I said, "but you already did." That's when her voice dropped. "If you don't cooperate, we'll take it to court. Custody, child support, maybe even a share of the estate. That could get tricky." I didn't even blink. "I have a team of lawyers. Go ahead, file. I'll be waiting." They left with threats hanging in the air. I wasn't scared of her anymore. I'd already survived her worst. And more importantly, I had something she'd never understand. Clarity. A life built on choice, not obligation. I called my attorney that afternoon. He tightened up the trust funds, updated the guardianship documents, and prepared for any legal action. We were covered, ironclad. The next week, I sat the kids down and told them the truth, in a way they could understand. "Mom's confused," I said gently. "She wants to be part of your life again, but only if she plays by the rules. You guys always come first, always." Emma asked, "What if she lies again?" I just hugged her. "We keep our eyes open, and our hearts are guarded, but we don't stop living." We took our first vacation that spring, just the three of us. I booked a beach house, no Wi-Fi, just sun and sand. Daniel found a hermit crab and named it Grandpa. Emma wrote a story about a robot family that builds a lighthouse to guide lost ships home. One night, we sat on the porch watching the stars. Emma leaned on my shoulder and said, "I like us like this." And for the first time in years, I believed we were going to be okay. But you ever notice, Frankie, that peace doesn't arrive with fanfare? It doesn't kick down the door or shout from the rooftops. It just kind of slips in, like warm light through curtains in the early morning. And when it gets there, the first thing you feel isn't joy, it's suspicion, like you're waiting for someone to knock it out of your hands. That's what those first weeks felt like after the lawsuit ended. We'd won. Monica's case was tossed like trash. No legal standing, no merit, no way back in. Her lawyer must have known it was a long shot, just a bluff to rattle the cage. I remember sitting across from my lawyer after the verdict. He was smiling, talking strategy and next steps. But all I could think about was how this wasn't just a win for me. It was a wall I'd finally finished building around my kids. A line drawn in stone that said, "This is ours now, and no one is getting through unless they come with love." Monica didn't show up again. No more surprise visits, no custody demands, no backhanded birthday cards or thinking of you texts. And for once, I didn't fill it with questions. I didn't wonder how she was doing. I just needed to let her go, fully and finally. The house, Dad's house, became our home in the truest sense. It used to feel like a museum of things I'd never wanted. Framed golf tournament plaques, dusty chairs no one sat in, furniture too stiff for real laughter. We cleared it out. I let the kids each pick a color for their rooms. Daniel painted his walls rocket gray, then stuck glow-in-the-dark planets across the ceiling. Emma chose lavender, then taped up every one of her dance ribbons like they were championship banners. The den? We turned it into a reading room, with a big green beanbag, a shelf of graphic novels, and a record player that still skips if you play Springsteen. The living room, Dad's old TV shrine, became a photo wall. Not of him, not yet, of us. The kids and I are at the beach, at the zoo, making pizza on a rainy Friday. It felt like stitching something together again, one picture at a time. I was still running the business, still learning the ins and outs of wholesale logistics and inventory flow. But I had help, smart people, good people. I didn't try to be my father. I made the company mine, and it started doing well, better than well. Clients liked the updates. Employees respected the culture shift. We started getting interest from regional partners, small chains looking to work with us exclusively. Dad would have hated the Zoom calls and automated reports, but he would have loved the numbers. Sometimes I'd sit in his old office, my office now, and say, "You see this, old man?" And I swear, Frankie, I could feel him smile through the walls. And then came the night that really hit me. Emma was in the kitchen, making cookies for her school bake sale. Daniel was on the floor with the dog, building Lego spaceships. I was in the dining room, checking inventory reports on my laptop, music playing low. Frank Sinatra came on. My Way. That was Dad's favorite. He used to sing it badly on Sunday mornings. I paused what I was doing, closed my eyes and listened. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I didn't cry, but my throat got tight, and for the first time I realized something I hadn't let myself admit. I was happy, not because I got rich, not because I won a court case, but because I'd finally stopped bending. The next day I got a call from Monica. Unknown number, but I knew it was her. Something in the air told me before I even picked up. She didn't say hello, just whispered, "Do they hate me?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "No, but they don't ask about you anymore." Silence. Then, "I think about them every day." "Then you should have fought for them, not the money," I said, calm but honest. Another pause. "I didn't know how." "That's not an excuse anymore," I said. "Not at our age." She asked if she could see them. I told her maybe, in time. If it's for them, not for her ego. Not for appearances, not for leverage, and that she'd need to prove that. We hung up without resolution, but that was okay. Summer came again, and we took another road trip, just me and the kids, this time up through Vermont. We stayed in cabins, made s'mores by the fire, told ghost stories Daniel was way too young for. One night we laid out under the stars, just the three of us. Emma looked up and said, "I think Grandpa would have liked it here." "Yeah," I said, "I think so too." "Do you miss him?" Daniel asked. "Every day." "But you don't cry." I smiled. I did, for a long time. Now, I remember him more than I miss him. And I meant it. Frankie, when I first got into this cab, I didn't think I'd tell you all this. Hell, I thought I'd just sit here in silence, scrolling through emails or avoiding my own thoughts. But something about these streets, this city, it gets under your ribs, makes you say things out loud before they harden into regret. So yeah, maybe I chose my dying father over my wife. Maybe I let my marriage die. But if I hadn't, I never would have found the version of myself who could really be a father, who could teach his kids that legacy isn't money. It's what you protect when the storms come. It's the house you build inside your own chest and let them grow up in. If you made it this far, thanks for riding with me. If you love real, messy, emotional stories like this, go ahead and hit subscribe. There's always another confession waiting in the backseat.